one morning the sun was shining and I was laying in bed, wondering if she'd changed at all and if her hair was still bright red. Her folks said that our lives together sure was gonna be rough. Well, they never did like Mama's homemade dress. Papa's bank worth wasn't big enough for us, and I was standing on the side of the road and the rain falling on my shoes. Heading out for the East Coast, Lord knows I paid my dues getting through. Tangled up in blue. She was married when we first met, she was soon to be divorced. I helped her out of the jam, I guess, but I used a little too much force. We drove that car as far as we could and then abandoned it out west. And then we both split up on the docks that night, both agreed it would be best. Yes, well, she turned around to look at me as I was walking away. I heard her say over my left shoulder, "Hey baby, now we'll meet again someday by the avenue." Tangled up in blue. I had a job in the great North Woods. I was working as a cook for this smell. I never did like it all that much, and one day the axe just fell. So I drifted down to New Orleans, where they treated me like a little boy while I was working for a little while on a fishing boat right outside the lovely town of Delacroix. But all the while when I was alone and the bath was closed behind, I'd seen a lot of women, yeah, but she'd never escaped my mind, and I just grew tangled up in blue. She was working in the topless place, and I stopped in for a beer. I just kept looking at the side of her face, and that profile so goddamn clear. And later on when the crowd dimmed down, I was just about to do the same. She was standing there in the back of my chair and said, "Mister, tell me, don't I know your name?" But it's something underneath in my breath as she studied the lines on my face. You know that I must admit I felt a little uneasy when she bent down the tighter laces of my shoe. Tangled up in blue. She lit a burner on the stove and then she offered me a bite. She never think I'd say hello, she said, "You look like the silent type." She opened up a book of poems and she handed them to me. They were all written by an Italian poet from the 15th century. Well, and every one of those words rang through, and then they glowed like burning coal, and they were all pouring off every page like they were written in my soul from me to you. Tangled up in blue. I lived down on Montague Street in the basement down the stairs. You know that there was music in the cafes at night, and revolution was in the air. She started into dealing with slaves, then something inside of her died. You know she had to sell every single thing she owned, and the bitch froze up inside. Then finally when the bottom fell out and I became withdrawn, the only thing that I ever remember how to do was to keep on keeping on like a bird that flew, tangled up in blue. So now I'm going back again. I gotta get back to that little girl somehow. Cause all the people that we used to know, they're in illusion to me now. Some are mathematicians and some are truck drivers' wives. I don't know how it all got started. I don't know what each and every one of them does with their lives. But I'm still on the road and I'm heading for another joint. We always say we feel the same, we just saw it from a different point of view. Tangled up in blue, and tangled up in blue, tangled up in blue. Thanks, y'all.